Harry Kane returning to the English Premier League. Liverpool finds a new Salah. Who could it be? Viktor Gyökeres chooses Arsenal, but what's behind this transfer? Claudio Ranieri back at the forefront, this time as Roma's manager. That's just a small part of what we'll cover in today's episode. Ready to dive into the hottest news and rumours? Let's get started. It seems the Red Devils have had enough of being stuck in mid-table. To put it bluntly, things aren't going great for United, and the attack, well, it's left a lot to be desired. Scoring goals has become a real struggle. But it looks like Old Trafford has come up with a grand plan to fix that. Imagine this: Harry Kane, captain of the England team, back in the Premier League wearing a Manchester United shirt. Sounds like a fairy tale, right? Well, here are the details, lads. According to Rumours, and you know, they rarely come from nowhere, Ruben Amorim, United's new manager, is apparently demanding an upgrade up front. And not just any upgrade, a bombshell. And that bombshell is none other than £108 million for Harry Kane, who's currently smashing it at Bayern Munich. Yes, you heard that right, £108 million for a 31-year-old striker. Madness, isn't it? But honestly, seeing how Kane's been tearing up the Bundesliga with 44 goals last season, maybe the money's not so crazy after all. By the way, United aren't the only ones dreaming of Kane. Paris Saint-Germain are also kicking themselves for missing out on such a prolific striker. They're still looking to replace Mbappé, and Kane would have been perfect. But it seems United are ready to outbid anyone. And, to be fair, I think they've got a good chance. Let's face it, United's current strikers, Højlund and Xerxes, who by the way cost a combined £108 million, haven't exactly lived up to expectations. 2 goals from one and just 1 from the other. It's laughable, honestly. Kane, with his consistency and killer instinct, is a whole different level. The man's scoring more than a goal per game, banging in hat-tricks like it's nothing. Can you imagine what he could do in the Premier League? But there's a catch: Alan Shearer's record. You remember, yeah, Kane is just 47 goals away from becoming the all-time top scorer in Premier League history. And, if you ask me, that could be the deciding factor. Returning to England, breaking the record, becoming a legend. Isn't that a tempting prospect? Plus, United are crying out for a leader right now, someone who can drag the team forward. Speaking of money, £108 million would be a new transfer record for Manchester United. Forget Pogba's £89 million. This is a statement of intent, a sign that United are willing to splash the cash to get back on top. But what if the deal falls through? Then what? United would still be left with the same issues up front, and the fans, well, you can imagine the disappointment. Some say it's madness to spend that kind of money on a 31-year-old. Others reckon Kane's a guaranteed source of goals, and therefore a guaranteed shot at success. Personally, I think it's a gamble worth taking. United need a game changer, and Kane is exactly that kind of player. Just picture it: Harry Kane at Old Trafford in a red shirt, scoring a goal. The stadium erupts, the fans go wild. Gives you goosebumps, doesn't it? And that could very well become reality. So what's next? If United do sign Kane, it could mark the start of a new era. An era of ambition, an era of triumphs, an era of resurgence. But, as they say, let's wait and see. Either way, we're in for a thrilling summer transfer window, and I'm sure the Kane saga is far from over. Let's keep an eye on how this one plays out. Word has it that Kylian Mbappé is supposedly psychologically unstable. Bit of an odd one, this. On one hand, Didier Deschamps keeps banging on about how it's purely a sporting matter, nothing more to his absence from the national team. Yet, Mbappé's inner circle are whispering about mental health issues, apparently stemming from that trip to Stockholm. Makes you wonder who's telling the truth, doesn't it? Look at the situation. Here's a young lad, bags of talent, earning an absolute fortune, fame most can only dream of. You'd think he'd be living the dream. But it's not that straightforward, is it? The millions in the bank, the constant expectations, the pressure, it's no joke. Some might say, for that kind of dosh, I wouldn't complain. But that's not necessarily how it works, lads. Money's all well and good, but it doesn't solve everything. He's not exactly setting the world alight on the pitch either. Arrived at Real Madrid with all the fanfare, but we're yet to see any real magic. Makes you wonder if there might be something in these psychological struggles. After all, he wasn't wearing the captain's armband for his country. Instead, he was spotted living it up in a nightclub. Deschamps wasn't best pleased about that one. But here's what's bothering me. Word is Ancelotti's not happy with Mbappé either. The papers reckon Kylian wants the Italian out. apparently thinks a new gaffer will play him in his preferred position and he'll be back to his brilliant best. But I'm not so sure. Is Mbappé playing a clever game here, using these psychological issues to cover up some below-par performances? Perhaps he just needs time to settle into Real Madrid's style of play, and this is his way of buying time. Think about it. Claiming psychological problems is quite convenient, isn't it? Everyone goes soft, shows sympathy, backs off. Poor lad, he's struggling, but what if we dig deeper? Maybe it's not stress at all. Maybe the transfer just isn't living up to expectations. Maybe Mbappé isn't worth that eye-watering fee. These are just my thoughts, mind, but where there's smoke, there's fire, as they say. There's been too much noise around Mbappé lately, and none of it particularly positive. Here's what I reckon. This psychological problems narrative might be Mbappe's get-out-of-jail-free card, at least temporarily. He can take a breather, get his head straight, maybe even get some proper help. After that, well, who knows? He might come back firing on all cylinders like the Mbappé of old, or he might continue to flounder, pointing fingers and using mental health as a shield. It's a fascinating situation, really. Shows that even the biggest stars can hit rough patches. Proves that money and fame aren't everything. We'll see how this drama plays out. Will Mbappé find his joy in football again, or are these psychological issues more serious than we think? Time will tell. Remember Omar Marmoush, that Egyptian striker who's been lighting it up for Eintracht Frankfurt? Well, word has it, Liverpool are already queuing up for his signature. And they're not coming empty-handed, but with a whopping £80 million war chest. Can you believe it? £80 million for a lad who, let's be honest, wasn't exactly setting the world alight just a year ago. And now, bang, he's being touted as the next Mo Salah. 14 goals in 16 matches across all competitions, 11 goals in 10 Bundesliga games. The numbers speak for themselves, don't they? The lad's absolutely on fire, and now Florian Plettenberg from Sky Germany is apparently dropping hints that Liverpool are keeping tabs on him. Then the Spanish lot at Fichajes have gone and stirred the pot, claiming the price tag isn't 50 to 60 million pounds as initially thought, but a full 80 million pounds. This is where it gets interesting. On one hand, splashing 80 million pounds on a player who hasn't proven himself at a top club is a bit of a gamble. Let's face it, it's one thing banging them in against Bochum and Darmstadt, quite another going toe-to-toe with Man City or Arsenal's defence. And who is Marmoush, really? Hand on heart, most of us had barely heard of him a couple of months ago. On the flip side, what if he's genuinely the next big thing? What if Liverpool sees something in him that we're all missing? There must be a reason why Arne Slot is so keen to get him on board. And apparently, the player himself is dreaming of pulling on the famous red shirt. Bild's even reporting that talks are already underway. For context, Liverpool are currently top of the Premier League, 5 points clear of Man City. But as we all know, staying at the summit is harder than getting there. This is where Marmoush could come in handy. Imagine, Salah, Nunez, Diaz, and now Marmoush. Crikey, that attack would be absolutely lethal, but it's not quite that straightforward. Firstly, £80 million is a fair whack of money, isn't it? Do Eintracht really think they can command such a fee for a player who, let's be honest, isn't quite world-class yet? Secondly, other clubs won't be sitting on their hands. If Marmoush is as good as they say, there'll be a queue of big clubs after him. Liverpool might have a proper scrap on their hands for his signature. Thirdly, Marmoush himself claims he's happy in Frankfurt and dreams of winning silverware with Eintracht, but he's not daft, is he? An offer from Liverpool is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So what's going to happen? Personally, I reckon the transfer will go through. Liverpool are flying at the moment and need someone to add more firepower up front. Marmoush fits the bill perfectly. Yes, £80 million is steep, but Liverpool can afford it. Plus, if he keeps banging them in at this rate, it'll be money well spent. But of course, things might pan out differently. Eintracht might dig their heels in and refuse to sell their star man, or Marmoush might fancy another season in Germany, or, heaven forbid, pick up an injury. Either way, this transfer saga will be fascinating to follow. I reckon we're on the verge of one of the biggest moves of the winter window. Fingers crossed for Omar Marmoush. Here's hoping he lives up to the hype if he does end up at Anfield. It seems like Arsenal have their sights set on Swedish star Viktor Gyökeres. This lad from Sporting is a proper goal-scoring machine, to put it mildly. Last season, he racked up 58 goal involvements, 43 goals and 15 assists. You'd need to eat a mountain of porridge to play like that. And this season, he's showing no signs of slowing down. 23 goals and 4 assists in 18 matches. The numbers speak for themselves, don't they? It's no wonder the top clubs are keeping an eye on him. Who wouldn't want a striker like that? Arsenal appeared to be leading the charge. Mikel Arteta seems to think Bukayo Saka needs some help up front, and Gyökeres looks like the perfect candidate. Tall, strong, quick, and hits the ball like a rocket. Sounds like a dream forward, doesn't he? But here's the question. Can he handle the Premier League? Portugal's all well and good, but England's a whole different beast. Will Victor be able to replicate his success? Arsenal's management are probably wondering the same thing. There's definitely a risk, but sometimes risks pay off, don't they? Especially when we're talking about a team that's struggling to find the back of the net this season, just 7th in terms of goals scored. That's laughable for a club with Arsenal's ambitions. Now about the money. Gyökeres was valued at £62.5 million for a summer move under a gentleman's agreement. But right now, Sporting wants £71 million to let Arsenal jump the queue. Well, fair enough. Business is business. The Portuguese side know this is likely Gyökeres' last season with them, so they want to cash in. By the way, there's a release clause in Gyökeres' contract, just under £84 million. But Sporting are willing to negotiate since the player himself is keen on a Premier League move. In the summer, he was even willing to stay put, knowing he could leave for less later. Smart lad, you have to admit. So the word is Arsenal need to cough up the cash if they want this guy, preferably in January. Arteta could really do with reinforcements now to pick up momentum for the second half of the season. The January transfer window is the perfect chance to sort things out. They've got the motivation, they've got the money, and they know where they need strengthening. All that's left is to make the move. And honestly, if not now, then when? Arsenal are in a tricky patch, with a pile of London games before the new year. They need to bag points to keep up with the leaders, and without a clinical striker, that's going to be tough. Imagine if Gyökeres scores as many in England as he did in Portugal. Arsenal would definitely be up there. Maybe even in the title race? Who knows? Let's wait and see what January brings. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. Right then, lads, remember how we were all proper fed up watching Casemiro last summer? Put it this way, the Brazilian looked like he'd been lugging bricks all day rather than playing football, particularly made a mess of it against Liverpool, where, let's be honest, he had an absolute shocker. Everyone was saying, "That's it, Casemiro, time to hang up your boots." Manchester United seemed keen to ship off the aging defensive midfielder anywhere they could. Only snag was, there weren't many takers. Even the loaded Saudi sheikhs weren't having any of it. Either Casemiro was asking for silly money, or he'd decided he wasn't ready for the retirement league just yet. Though watching him play, it looked more like top-flight football was leaving him behind, rather than the other way round. Then, bang! In comes Ruud van Nistelrooy, and Casemiro's transformed like he's been touched by a magic wand. Started putting in a shift, spraying passes about, solid in the tackle. And the Brazilian himself, if you please, comes out saying Ten Hag was to blame for everything. Reckons the team was playing poorly and he was just a cog in the machine. Yeah, right, Casemiro. Suppose Ten Hag was making those howlers against Liverpool for you as well. Bit rich, isn't it? Everyone can see it was just the Liverpool match. The whole team wasn't at their best, so I'm having a good season. Hold on a minute, how can the team be playing poorly while you're having a good season? Doesn't quite add up, does it? Fair play, Casemiro's picked up his game in recent matches, but let's look at who they've played. Park, Leicester, twice, Chelsea. Hardly the cream of the crop, are they? And even in these matches, the Brazilian's still prone to the odd dodgy moment. Lucky Ugarte's there to mop up in defensive midfield. But judging anyone on a handful of games is dodgy business. Plus, Manchester United are banging in the goals at the moment, though they were struggling to find the net before. As usual, while you're getting results, nobody's making a fuss. But I'll tell you what, mates, Casemiro shouldn't be getting ahead of himself. Yeah, he's flying high now, but what's round the corner? Amorim, the new gaffer, knows his boy Ugarte inside out, and having two defensive midfielders with average passing in the starting 18th isn't his cup of tea. And leaving young Kobbie Mainoo to warm the bench isn't exactly ideal either. Chances are, Casemiro's got his work cut out proving his worth. If he can finish the season like his first year at United, then fair enough, we can talk about a proper comeback. But for now, let's be realistic. This looks more like a purple patch. And if Casemiro can't keep up the standard, I reckon we'll be seeing that same knackered Brazilian again, rather than the Real Madrid version we all remember. When that happens, no amount of moaning about poor systems or team problems will wash. What do you lot reckon? Let us know in the comments. Remember the buzz this summer? Manchester United splashed out, well, quite a bit. A hefty $47 million. For that Dutch lad from Bologna, Joshua Zirkzee, Serie A star, dubbed the new Van Nistelrooy. He was meant to be the saviour for the Red Devils' attack. And to be fair, it all started off nicely. A goal in his debut against Fulham, 3 points in the bag, and fans' hopes soaring through the roof. But what went wrong? Since then, radio silence. 16 games without a goal, just 2 assists, and now people are saying Xerxes hasn't settled in. Honestly, I'm as surprised as anyone. The lad was lighting up Serie A. Bologna made it to the Champions League with him, but now it's like he's hit a brick wall. Maybe the Premier League doesn't suit him? Too fast? Too physical? Or he just doesn't fit into United's system? And then there's Erik ten Hag. It seems like he couldn't find the right approach for his fellow Dutchman either. Only 4 starts since late September. That's hardly encouraging. And now, just half a year later, rumours are swirling about a return to Italy. Juventus have had their eye on him for ages back when he was playing for Bologna. Now, with Milik injured, they need a replacement. And Thiago Motta, Xerxes' former coach, is at the helm of Juve. Could he be the one to unlock the player's potential again? Talk about irony. United fork out a fortune, only to loan him out for half price. Xerxes' salary for half a year is €3.5 million. All because the new manager, Ruben Amorim, supposedly made it clear from the off that Xerxes wasn't his kind of player. Makes you wonder what Amorim saw that United scouts missed. Or maybe it's just that Amorim's building his team from scratch and Xerxes simply doesn't fit in. The financial side is intriguing too. United obviously don't want to lose money. Will there be a buy option in the loan deal, or could Juve be obliged to buy him outright? A lot depends on that. If they do buy him, it's a clear sign United have washed their hands of him. How can a player who's shown in Serie A fall flat so quickly in England? Maybe it's a mental thing. The pressure, the expectations, the media scrutiny. Not every young player can handle that. Well, we'll see how things pan out. Personally, I think it's too soon to write Xerxes off. A move to Juventus and a reunion with Motta might be just what he needs to reboot his career. And Manchester United? I fear they might end up regretting their haste. Or, who knows, maybe Amorim is spot on and Xerxes is just a bubble that's burst. Only time will tell. Would you believe it? Claudio Ranieri, our dear old Tinkerman, is coming out of retirement. And where to? None other than his beloved Roma, where, to put it mildly, it's absolute chaos. He did say he couldn't turn Roma down if they came calling, and blow me they have. But you know what? I've got a feeling this fairy tale might have a bitter twist. Why? Well, Friedkin, the club's owner, seems to be playing musical chairs with managers. Just think about it. Ranieri will be Roma's 4th gaffer in a single year. Mourinho, De Rossi, Juric, and now Ranieri. It's turning into a proper circus, and it's not just the chopping and changing. Word has it, billionaire Friedkin sacked Juric over the phone right after he'd made it back to the dressing room following a defeat. That's just not cricket, is it? Ranieri's a legend, no doubt about it. The man who worked miracles with Leicester and twice steadied the ship at Roma before. But he's 73, for heaven's sake. Word on the street is, it's just a 6-month deal. He's basically a firefighter, or as they say in Italy, a ferryman. Sort out the mess and we'll see what happens. Even the promise of a board position sounds like a consolation prize if you ask me. It all started so promisingly. They were after Montella, but his Turkish contract put the kibosh on that. So off Ranieri flies to London with his agent to hammer out a deal. Why London when Roma's in Rome? Well, that's where Friedkin is, isn't it? Makes you wonder about the money involved. Wouldn't be surprised if Ranieri's getting a tidy bonus for this rescue mission. He'd only just left Cagliari, saying he was done with football. And now this. Roma comes calling, and his heart's ruled his head, clearly. But I'm worried, lads. How long can he last in this shambles? Can a 73-year-old really get a grip on a squad that's had 4 different managers in a year? What if it all changes again in 6 months? Friedkin finds another Xavier and Ranieri's packed off into retirement for good. I don't know about you, but I reckon this story's far from over. And I've got a nasty feeling there's no happy ending coming. We'll see, of course. But something tells me the drama at Roma's only just beginning.